This is the Between Part 2. Let's take a look at our kind of what's going on in the story so far. Do a bit of recap. You have one active threat right now. That is the Nutcracker. I'll remind you that there is a big story in the papers right now because these young male ballet dancers have all been found murdered and posed in various parts of the city. And Hargrave House has been particularly asked to look into it by Rabbi Rebecca Solomon, who used to work for Hargrave House as well. And so that's sort of what's going on. This particular threat, this killer is being called the Sculptor in the papers. And so that's how we're referring to him so far, or her possibly. Although there's a pretty significant indication that it's a man because of an encounter that one of the characters had last time. But in any case, we have 3 questions. All of them are different ways of resolving the threat. And so you can review those on the threat tab, and you have 3 clues currently right now on that threat. You have 1 mastermind clue, which was just that Admiral Flagg decided to stop by and spread some holiday cheer. And so that's kind of the tracking of the mastermind. And taking a look at the characters and your conditions. Only a couple of characters have conditions at this point. Lady Florence has marked by the Sculptor, this individual that we saw last time, and Dominic, Mr. Constantine, has a bruised shoulder. Otherwise, the characters are in pretty good shape. We didn't have a very long session last time, and so this is kind of like our first full-on day phase and night phase that we'll be doing. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and take a look at your dawn questions and change those if you wish, or keep them as they are. And remember that you want to try to role play to those whenever you get a chance, or if you get a chance. Does anyone have any questions about last time?
Just a minor thing in terms of like, did we finish exploring an area? Did we finish Covent Garden? Did we finish the meeting with Rabbi Solomon?
No, you can absolutely go back and follow up on those things. I mean, we just
Okay.
had like brief little scenes there. So,
Okay.
Especially Covent Garden, you can definitely go back and do more stuff there. So, in that case, let's go ahead and begin the day phase. The very first thing is I present a new threat if there are less than 3 active threats, and there are less than 3 active threats. It is still December in London. Our threat that is getting introduced today is called the Limehouse Lurker. I think it's familiar to everyone here, I'm pretty sure. Jenny Johnston, the proprietor of an opium den in Limehouse, tells you a story that has not yet reached Scotland Yard or the papers. 3 people have been found dead in recent days, the bodies completely exsanguinated. The first was a sex worker called Soft Jimmy. He was found in a dark corner of the opium den. The second was a young woman named Charla Bell. She was found in an alley behind the Limehouse School, which is a workhouse for children. And the third was a Chinese sailor, Zhao Donghai, who was found outside a pub near the Regent's Canal dock in Limehouse. This pub is called the Dog and Whistle. Jenny, an informal community leader in Limehouse, has been keeping the bodies in her basement at the opium den. She's hesitant to go to the authorities because she fears it will cause trouble for the small but thriving Chinese immigrant community in the district, which she is a part of. She heard that Hargrave House has experience with matters such as this and has asked for your help. Now, I'm going to pose the following question. It says I'm supposed to pose it to the person with the highest reason, but I might change that. Well, it's a tie, and so I'm going to choose whoever I want. And instead, I'm going to pose it to Dominic. Mr. Constantine, you're a monster hunter. You have experience with vampires. This is a vampire. That much is pretty clear. There are no other creatures that you're aware of that drinks the blood of their victims. And yet a detail in Jenny's story convinces you this particular vampire has the body of a small child. What is the detail that convinces you of that?
while the actual site of exsanguination was, as is traditional, the jugular, the majority of the wounds that each of the bodies show are kind of at or below the abdominal line, and doesn't take too much forensic knowledge to know that the perpetrator must be of limited height.
Indeed. It's safe to assume that the vampire is physically at least a child, but that doesn't mean the vampire is actually young. Vampires don't age beyond how old they were when they were turned into a vampire. And an old vampire has to be dealt with in a very different way from a young one. They're almost entirely different creatures. And so the question that you have to answer initially is this vampire young or old? It's a complexity 4, and that unlocks the next question. You also have an aspect of the Janus mask available here called the Mask of the Sun. So, with all that said, I'm going to begin regular scenes. I'm going to start that off by going around the table and finding out what everyone's interested in doing today. You now have 2 active threats, one that you have begun the investigation of, the second that has just landed on your door. Let's start with Ms. Balakwa.
Victoria is sitting in the dining room with a cup of tea, softly humming to herself, satisfied from the night's events. It's probably she has the clue stuck in her head and is going to forever associate that with Rebecca going forward. I think today, still very curious as to how the sculptor is really going to show himself. We'll probably do more investigating going to either the I should look at a particular location because we've done the hall already.
I can give you some leads if you want.
Please.
You can go back to Covent Garden if you want. There's still plenty to do there, I think. There's also the church at Covent Garden, St. Paul's, where one of the victims was found. There's also the lake in Regent's Park, which is where I believe another body was found by the lake as well.
I think I will don some furs and a muff and go to the lake.
Okay, great. There's also the studio where the performers actually practice during the day. That's also available. Well, Jakob, what do you think for today?
Well, new to the city still, the idea of seeing where ballet performers learn their arts just sounds fascinating. I'd love to go poke at that.
Sounds good. And Lady Florence.
I had that experience with I saw the Arctic fox walking around, so I think I'm kind of drawn to the outdoors today. So I think I'm gonna head to the lake with Victoria.
Sounds good. And Mr. Constantine.
I was also thinking the ballet studio.
Very good. So we got 2 groups. And yeah, that sounds good. Let's start with Victoria and Lady Florence. Do you want the journey to the lake, or do you want to just be at the lake?
Let's just arrive there, perhaps.
Okay, sounds good. Regent's Park Lake. I think by the time you get there, by the time you get around and then get there, it's already midday. And the lake itself is dazzling under the midday sun. Now, the lake has long arching bridges that kind of span its waters in places. And willow limbs laced with frost gleam as young lovers take their tentative steps together under the boughs. There's also a small winter market where warm sweets are available for purchase. Paint the scene, everyone. Despite the picturesque scene here, Regent's Park Lake saw a tragedy last year when the ice gave way and 500 folks plunged into the freezing depths. What evidence of the rescue effort still lingers?
From a year past, right?
It was just last year.
I think we can see frozen into the lake this year the long wooden planks and struts that they had put out to try and wheel people in carts and trying to excavate as best they can, but now they're just frozen there.
There are some anniversary bouquets and laurels of flowers and a couple of frost-covered teddy bears facing out to the water.
On a pair of trees by the edge of the lake, the ropes that held up a like a makeshift awning to cover where they were piling the bodies is still tied.
And I think that it's not so much left over from last year, but there's like cloth like ribbon that's like tied from tree to tree, like a crime scene type of thing. And it's like painted in really like crude letters, like skate at your own risk. And then there's skulls on either side of it, over and over again around the trees that surround the lake.
Fantastic. So, yeah, you're there. And just as a reminder, the body that was found here was Basil Lagarde, the youngest victim, who was only 13. He was actually posed like he was skating on the lake, just sort of, obviously just standing there like a statue, right? The body's been long cleared out, but in any case, Ms. Valakwa, what do you do?
I think I would like to go to the particular spot where the sculptor left this particular victim to see if perhaps what's nearby, because the body must have been transported here somehow. So I'm looking for maybe a direction in which it makes sense that either they would have come from, or alleys or dark areas near the lake, or how they would manage to move it here without anybody seeing it.
Yeah, that's great. Go ahead and make the information move with reason.
That's an 8.
An 8. Very good. And let's go ahead and check in with Lady Florence. Lady Florence, what are you going to be doing?
Is the audio better?
That's better. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I can tell something was different in what you had before.
Yeah. I think kind of similar to Victoria, as opposed to looking for the direction, maybe I'm starting on the outskirts and I'm looking for like a path through the snow. Like something might have been dragged or carted over, some type of evidence that I guess part of this is determining if the statue was made on the ice or off of the ice as well.
It's pretty similar. So you're both kind of doing kind of a similar thing, just in different places, but I like it. Go ahead and make the information move with reason as well.
Okay. I've got a 7.
All right. We'll come back to these in just a bit. Let's check in with Jakob and Dominic. The ballet studio is busy. You see lots of young men, and it's just young men today who are there in the studio, their legs stretching, in kind of like, they're kind of like stretching on the bar, right? And their steely eyes are like reflected in the wall of mirrors. And you hear the regular soft pat of a body, of feet landing perfectly on the wooden floor. Let's paint the scene. Chopin's Etude Opus 25, number 11, Winter Wind, plays down the hall. In what ways does the studio echo the dramatics of the piano music?
I feel like I'm gonna need a half an hour to listen to it before I can answer.
I know. Yeah, this one has such Byzantine, Baroque paint the scene questions, but I love it for that. So just the dramatics.
Let me see this, because it's got to be a live performance. It's not like there's a recording in this era. So the dramatics is that occasionally it's interrupted and you hear a scraping of chairs. That's sort of as somebody's adjusting the seat for the cello or what have you, that is a little discordant and then puts the rhythm of the ballet performer's feet off while they need to reset.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Sorry, what was the song again?
Oh, the music was just a Chopin piece. And the question is just, how does what's going on in the studio echo the dramatics, like the drama of the music?
Thank you. So I think the lighting is very poor, only lit by some thin windows, and the light catches the dust falling a little bit like snow in winter wind.
Sarah and Mike, anything to add?
Started listening to the song. What's the paint the scene question?
Let's
again?
take a break while everyone listens to Chopin.
We're very obsessed with the accuracy of
Chopin's
this.
Etude Opus 25, number 11, Winter Wind. Yeah, the question is just like, how does the scene in the studio with the dancers reflect the drama of the music?
I think perhaps behind those diligently doing their stretches and warm-ups, you actually see three young men in some sort of not quite yet a tussle, but a very aggravated discussion of perhaps blocking.
Yeah, good.
Loved it. They're doing something with the lights, like the lights are flickering almost to like the pace of the music in a way. I think yeah, it's dim enough that like there's enough light that you can see things, but you can tell that like the light is like shifting as these lights sort of like flicker in a weird way.
Dominic, there is a woman who appears to be sort of like the trainer, or the woman who's responsible for whipping them into shape, the director of this company. You might have gained her, you might have like learned her name before coming. Her name is Zelia Gagnon. She is a very, very strict and serious looking woman. And you've heard rumors, we discussed these rumors last time, about like almost the cruelty with which the dancers are treated to get them to perform perfectly. And a little bit of that cruelty is reflected even here in this like more like low-key practice setting. She has like kind of a rod, or like a thin switch that she kind of uses to like make the dancers like adjust their body just the right way, or twist their leg just the right way, right? And you see the dancers' faces wincing whenever she makes one of those corrections. But that's sort of the scene. What do you do, Mr. Constantine?
Well, I'm going to approach the director. I'll skirt the practice area so as to not interrupt.
I think that your presence will cause her to call for an early break, and there's a sigh of relief from the dancers as a break is kind of called. What are you doing, Jakob?
First, in admiring the musculature and physique, just sort of thinking about my own body morphism issues that I've been dealing with of late. I think if there's this break, if the director calls for this break, that I will seek out, let's say the most elderly looking dancer to see if I can learn a little more about, I don't know, their knowledge of the three people who are deceased.
Elderly is a very, very
No,
relative
relatively
term.
speaking, yeah.
Very relative term. You know, someone in there. I mean, I think the oldest dancer was one of the victims, right?
Yeah, and as
so
the
maybe-
Soaring Lambros is 29, so yeah,
right.
elderly is.
Yeah, so
Quite
we're probably
old.
talking somebody in their mid-20s here, and they are, I guess, in this environment, they are senior. That is for sure. Yeah, you can certainly find one of those dancers. And Dominic, once there's a pause, you said you're going to approach the director.
Yes.
She comes up to you. She has her hair kind of pulled up in a tight bun, and a pencil stuck through it, and her corset is just like a little too tight, right? She is a woman who is very like rigid and controlled, and she looks it, right? And she comes up to you and she says, I don't remember this being a public practice space, and yet here you are. Can I ask what your business is here? We don't like distractions here at the Royal Ballet. We like to focus, especially with all the bad things going on lately. Discipline and focus are very, very important to maintain.
Of course, of course.
I suppose you're from Scotland Yard.
In a manner of speaking. You can...
Well, I've said everything I have to say. There's nothing else to tell. There's no one here who knows anything about what's going on, she says loudly to the group. Now, if you'll let us get back to it.
Afraid I can't do that just yet, ma'am. I have some questions, and well, you said everything you could say to Scotland Yard. We haven't had a chance to talk yet.
And who is we?
Consider myself and my friend back there consultants. We
Some
solve
sort of
problems.
Private investigator, I suppose.
That's a good way of thinking about it.
Right. Well, what was your name again?
You can call me Dom.
And a little smile plays on the corner of her lips at that. And she says, well, we'll see about that, won't we?
He'll smile back and say, Director, I know that the more traditional methods of dealing with these issues probably aren't what you'd seek. And we're not very traditional at my place of business.
Let's check in with Jakob. Jakob, the dancer you find. The dancer you find is well, let's see. I've got some characters here to pick from, but I'm going to decide what I think makes the most sense. Yeah, you find a young dancer who appears to be the leader of the group, or appears to be the senior member of the group, just by virtue of like how they act with the others, right? There's a certain amount of like, whereas Ms. Gagnon has this sort of like strict, rigid, almost like cruel approach to the boys, he is almost more motherly, right? Like he sort of like is making sure that everyone has water and everyone is kind of like, you know, taking advantage of this break as best they can. Very like kind of den mother, you know, kind of like vibes from this young man. Is that the one you approached then?
Sure.
What do you say?
Well, I'll try to sidle up a little, inconspicuously politely,
Yeah.
kind of try and, gesture a little bit to nudge them aside from the crowd of dancers. And say, excuse me, my companion and I are here. We're making some inquiries about, recent distressing events and the loss of so many members of your troop. I'm sure you have to be nervous, and we've been asked to help resolve the matter. I'd like to ask some questions if it's not too disturbing at the moment.
Make the information move with presence.
This is my presence. All right. That is a 7.
Got lots of mid results today. I'm gonna check in with Constantine first, and then we'll go back to the other group. Ms. Gagnon, she seems to kind of just be ignoring your various entreaties here a little bit, and she's kind of like looking you up and down, Dominic, like very appraising. And she's even started to like circle you as she looks you up and down. And she says, you could have been like us, like the dancers, if you'd been brought up young enough. You certainly have a physique that would lend itself to that sort of rigorous activity. I can also see that you're a survivor. We're survivors too. We process our trauma through dance, just like you, no doubt, process your trauma through whatever it is you actually do, Dom.
Let's say rigorous activity.
Yes, indeed. Go ahead and make the information move with vitality.
That's 8.
Good. Back at the lake. Ms. Balakwa. Let me take a look at the clues we have right now currently. So don't double up on anything. Okay, good. Ms. Balakwa, you will find what appears to be discarded bandages. They are stiff with cold because they've been left out in the snow, but they're crusted over and soaked through with blood. That's your clue. When you touch the bandages, because of your particular sensitivities, you feel the pain of whoever these bandages were attached to. And indeed, the pain is in your legs. And I'm going to give you that as a condition. You have sudden, sharp leg pains. They don't prevent you from walking or anything, but they might impede you in other less severe ways until you deal with it. But how are you feeling right now?
I think that with my sensitivities, it's not uncommon for me to channel the results of some of my more metaphysical inquiries physically, but it's disturbing to me because I don't typically feel this kind of sharp knife sort of pain. It's much more dark entity based, so I think I might be a little bit unnerved.
Yeah, indeed. Go ahead and note the condition. I think I want the condition just to reflect the pain in your legs. So you can write that however you want. Lady Florence, you said you were also looking for sort of like physical details of like, was the person posed here on the ice, or were they formed that way and then dragged here? It's a good question. And I think the one thing you find, because it's been frozen solid, is there are footprints heading towards the lake. And the footprints indicate that there were two people. One of them was wearing just boots, but the other was barefoot, walking in the snow barefoot. And these footprints in the snow have frozen over so that they're still preserved. But that's your clue. And I think as your complication, I think as you are kind of roaming around, seeing the footprints, I think you see the sculptor again. You are currently marked by the sculptor. And the sculptor has got eyes on you. He stands out, a slash of dark in the white snow, standing between a pair of rime-covered trees. His teeth large and clenched and bared. And he has someone with him. He has a person, it seems like he's just grabbed. Maybe it seems somebody you saw even like walking around the lake just a few moments ago. A young person bundled up for the winter. The sculptor's just holding them. And they bring up what appears to be an ice pick. And they're getting ready to just murder this person in front of you. What do you do?
I think I am just going to yell stop. I think like I'm going to like turn, pay full attention and just say stop. Stop. And I will like hold up my hand and try and like be getting Victoria's attention in any way. And I'll just kind of be like, I'm not gonna run up to him, but just sort of like very deliberately like walk toward him. Like I don't want to like increase the pace of the scene in any way. You know, like if you're chasing a dog, essentially, like you don't want to run after it
Right, to
because
make
it'll
him
just run
away.
faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do the day move. What do you afraid is going to happen if you fail right now?
That the sculptor is going to take a victim.
Yeah. Go ahead and roll with composure.
Okay.
And I'm going to make you at disadvantage because of the condition. So roll 3 dice and take the 2 lowest.
Okay. Composure is what? I don't think it matters, but oh, it's a 2. So it is no, it's a 6.
You cry out, stop. And the sculptor's smile just gets wider and bigger. His teeth are really something to behold. They kind of take up like half his face, right? The surface area of his face. And he gets this wild look in his eyes. And he has the ice pick and he just brings it down and it pierces through the person's skull all the way down and pierces their tongue. And their tongue is just twitching at the end of his ice pick. And then he drops them in the snow and turns and runs off. Unless you want to mark the Janus mask.
No, it's okay. A lot of people die. Everyone dies,
death.
right?
Everyone dies eventually. We'll come back to the scene in a bit. Jakob, this young dancer, his name is Christian. He says, well, of course, we're all a little on edge about what's been going on. The young men who were killed, obviously, I knew them very well. Some of them very, very well. And he gets a clear, like, kind of look of like he starts to tear up a little bit. And says, poor Basil, he was barely 13 years old. And of course, the great soaring Lambros, the finest of our company. But the one that everyone seems to forget in this story is Massimo, because he was not the greatest nor the youngest of the victims, but he was certainly the one who was most important to me.
I'm so terribly sorry for the, this horror that's befallen your group. I'm sort of new to the arts, new to London. I'm more from the rural areas, but I've heard that there's competition in performing arts. Is it possible that this was somebody's effort to clear a space on the stage for themselves? I know that's outrageous, but
well, I mean, I suppose anything's possible, but Ms. Gagnon, she's very good at making sure that none of our egos get too out of control. I think she disapproved of Hermes's little nickname, the Soaring, because it focused attention on him in a way that she didn't like. It's all about the company. It's all about the whole, not any individual member. And he kind of says, actually, now that you mention it, well, and he kind of like gets a little like, he says, well, now that you mention it, Massimo was working hard to become the lead dancer. He was slated to be the lead dancer someday. And poor little Basil was a prodigy. He would have been the principal inside of 3 or 4 years, easy. Maybe it has something to do with their particular talent. I don't know. Maybe that's why the killer chose who he did. And that's your clue, is that these particular 3 victims were marked for greatness.
all right.
And then he says, I wasn't born and raised in London myself. I come from a little village in the country just like you. I worked hard to get where I am, and I'm just happy that someone saw something in me. And he says, and I think he's kind of like wanting to like open up to you quite a bit, and wanting to like, you can tell like I'm sure he's just like caught up in his emotions, but I think he sort of feels connected to you because you are also not from London, that you're a hick like him, right? How are you feeling about that? Or are you even picking up on that at all?
No, I think I can pick up on that. They say, well, perhaps, we should talk further and have tea. I don't, whenever practice is done, I don't know what your you're in the middle of a performance season. You might not have any time.
Well, there may not even be a performance. There's rumors that the Nutcracker is going to be canceled. I really, really hope not. I mean, yes, this is a terrible tragedy, but it would be a real shame if all of our work just got, just went out the window because of this. It would almost be like letting the killer win,
Right, exactly. I don't
But
think
I would,
it'll
I
come
would
to
love
that.
tea.
Well,
I'm afraid my little flat that I share with 5 other dancers is not the most accommodating space. Maybe wherever
yeah,
you
4 p.m.
live.
at Sainsbury's. I'm making up a name of it.
Sure, like a
I
bar.
have no idea.
Yeah. You can have a date. Yeah, you can set up a date with him.
All right. Keep your eyes open for anyone lingering who seems to be scoping out the next performer. If somebody's really got it in for this performance for some reason, they might be stalking at any moment. They might be lurking.
Yeah, it's good. Constantine, I owe you a clue as well, right?
Yes.
What'd you get in your role?
8.
8. Okay. She says, Dom. Well, actually, what was the last thing that you asked her? I know she'd kind of made some comments about your physique, and then what happened?
Oh, I mainly just offered that our methods are
Right.
non-traditional.
Yeah. She says, Dom, have you ever thought about trying to exorcise your demons through dance?
Through dance.
Through moving your body in a sensual manner with great rigor.
I think about that quite frequently, Director.
Yes, I can see that you probably do. And then she kind of like smiles and says, I've told everything I know about what happened to my boys. It's all very sad. But that doesn't mean we slow down. Even if the show gets canceled, we're going to practice as if we are still set to put on the greatest performance of our lives.
Even with the killer still out there.
Especially because the killer is still out there. And here she kind of like says, I've scheduled a very special rehearsal. It's at something of an odd hour tonight after midnight. You should come.
You can count on me.
And that's actually your clue. These strange, like off hour, like late hour rehearsals and Ms. Gagnon's. Otherwise, I mean, you can infer whatever else you want from Ms. Gagnon, but that's the kind of gist of it. Lady Florence and Victoria, you'll be aware of what just happened, and I think there'll be quite a lot of people like gathering around, a lot of people running and screaming, someone going to get the police constables. You probably have a few moments before a police constable arrives. Lady Florence, what do you do?
Well, I'm going to go find Victoria. And
Yeah, you can be together. That's fine.
yeah. It
Well,
appears that our target is a killer and a sculptor, and not necessarily at the same time, which makes things a little bit more dangerous, doesn't it?
is that what happened? I only caught movement out of the corner of my eye. It was the sculptor.
I have been seeing the sculptor since our time at the garden.
Well, perhaps that will be useful to us, but for now, do you want to see if there are any similarities to the other sculptures before the constables swarm
Mm.
us.
I gaze around and I say, yes, I suppose we have a few minutes before that would seem suspicious in any way.
Victoria, the victim is still alive.
Ooh.
They have the ice pick wedged through their head and their tongue pierced to the lower palate of their mouth. But they are clearly still alive. You can
I
see it's a
think
woman
once
now.
I think once I see that it's not a young boy and that she is very much alive, I would like to use a ritual to see if I can in any way help or stabilize her.
With rites of salt and smoke.
Yeah, I'll pull just a small curved knife out of my muff and take
Mhm.
off one of my gloves and
Mhm.
just slice my own hand, maybe grabbing the bloody bandages along with it, mixing my blood with the victims, and call upon these dark entities.
Yeah, I love it. Do go ahead and roll with I guess it's sensitivity. Yeah.
Mhm. That's much better. That is a 12 total.
Okay. Had you marked the cosmic passage already, you would get to unmark it, but you haven't marked it yet, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Nevertheless, you do get a 10 plus. I assume what you're trying to do here is do one thing that is beyond human limitations.
Yes, indeed.
You can save her life. Describe it.
It looks to others around me that there is dark, curling, oily smoke coming out from underneath my skirts. In this case, I wore skirts today out in public, but it's actually kind of disseminating from the pain in my legs, as if the entities are immediately drawn to my own pain, and then I start to channel them. Doing so, I funnel that smoke with my intention through her mouth as I pull the ice pick out of her brain, and the smoke follows through and up out of the hole, hopefully mending much of her brain along the way. I don't know if she'll be right anymore, but she'll be alive.
I love it. Let's take a 5-minute break. All right, we're back. I do want to memorialize the last scene at the dance studio by saying that, Dominic, I'm going to give you the condition marked by Ms. Gagnon, and Jakob, I'm going to give you, it has less ominous implications, but you have marked by Christian, the dancer. And I want to pick right back up with saving the life of this young woman. She kind of like, as the wound is sort of like closed up and the ice pick is sort of just kind of removed, falls out of her head like a thorn falling out of being pushed out of a piece of flesh. She screams, God, what's going on? What happened? And she starts to she's just freaking out, as you would. Lady Florence and Victoria, what do you do?
I place one hand over her heart and just shh, it's all right. I think it's all right.
What happened? I was just walking along the lake, and this man, and she looks at you, Lady Florence, and she says, I saw you. You were the last thing I saw. But and she's just very confused. But straight away, it seems like the sculptor just grabbed her because she was handy. I don't know if there was any particular relevance to anything except just to torment Lady Florence was the idea, I think. But in any case, the police constable will show up, and with somebody dragging him there. And he says, "What's going on here? I heard there was an attack."
Yes, officer. I'm afraid the man ran off that way. But as you see, she's going to be all right.
He's like, and he kind of looks, and she just nods that yes, she's okay, she supposes. And the police constable will run off in the direction that you point him in.
I think for now, Victoria, having kind of pieced together that there isn't a connection to this victim, might just disinterestedly like stand up and kind of brush the smoke out of her skirts and turn to Lady Florence.
Victoria, did you point in the direction that he actually ran, or did you just point in a random direction?
No, I pointed in the. Didn't he run off that way? Is it that? Yeah, that way. Maybe perhaps directionally, not as attuned to the directional compass as you might be.
And I begin walking off, I think just essentially what I'm setting up here, and not to throw Victoria under the bus in any way, the double-decker bus, but like that we can go chase after the sculptor and be ahead of the constables, essentially.
Oh yeah, I like that. That's pretty good. I think if you're both going to take off going in your own pursuit, before you go, that young woman will grab you, Miss Valacqua, by the wrist.
Oh, that still stings.
And she says, "I don't know who they are, but they said you owe them now." They said,
Who owes who, my dear?
they said, my life was worth more than your paltry sacrifice of blood. That's what they're saying.
Oh, them. Yes.
Who are they?
It should be fine.
They keep mentioning something about a rabbi.
Oh, yes, of course. Honestly, it's difficult to explain, but
I
I've
think
been
they
touched
intend
by.
to hurt her. This
No,
rabbi.
yes. If only I had Jedi powers as a vessel. I think that what Victoria will do in this instance is, after all of this sputtering, simply say, "My dear, it's best to ignore them. They should fade with time. It's my burden. I just happened to push a little too hard, but I think that now that you are alive, they will be hungry for more. But they shan't come after you."
He says, "I don't know what any of this means, but I think I need to go have a hot cup of tea."
Put a little brandy in the bottom, my dear. You'll feel right as rain.
Back at the dance studio, they're getting ready to go back to practice, and so your presence is no longer needed, Mr. Constantine and Jakob. But Jakob, the young dancer Christian, who has, I think you've all settled on a time like in the early evening to meet, he says, "Before you go, Mr. Walsh, one of the dancers who's supposed to be here today didn't show up." His name is Billy.
Tell me more.
His name is Billy, and, well, he never would miss a practice. Ms. Gagnon wouldn't stand for it. Everyone's already saying that, well, he's probably been grabbed by the sculptor, hasn't he?
Oh, I don't know, but tell me where his residence is, and I'll go find what I can find.
Yeah, he'll give you the name of a flat where a bunch of the dancers live, or the location of the flat. Victoria and Lady Florence, you are in pursuit of the sculptor, it sounds like, the direction you think he went.
And interrupt you for 1 second. I'm assuming we're exiting the dance studio, yeah?
No, I cut away from the dance studio scene. I'm going back to Victoria and Lady Florence.
Okay, I got one thing whenever we exit, like a little
Sure.
anything.
Yeah. Victoria and Lady Florence, you are in pursuit. You round a corner. You round a corner and you come upon a large Christmas tree that's been set up in Regent's Park. This is, we described last time that Christmas trees are kind of all the rage this year because Queen Victoria has one. And they've set up this enormous Christmas tree. And normally there would be people around it milling around, you know, like kind of, just enjoying the day. And indeed, this Christmas tree, which is huge, it's probably like 20, 25 feet tall, covered in silver and blue baubles. The people who are standing around it are not engaged in merriment. They are looking up at the top of the tree in shock and horror. A ballet dancer is atop the tree, spread like a star, the star topper of this particular tree. And you can smell the very distinct smell of kerosene coming off of the tree. And the dancer is alive. He has a look of utter terror in his face. Lady Florence, what do you do?
I think I'm going to, like, is there a constable nearby? Is there anyone that looks like they could help that I could essentially like order to like take action and cut the tree down?
I don't think you have that kind of time, because you'll see at the
Uh-huh.
base of the tree, your friend is standing there,
Oh,
having led you to this. He's actually dressed like a nutcracker now. And he's got his little tall hat, his little brass button uniform. And he has like a little pike. But on the end of it, it's a torch, a flame. He's getting ready to light this tree up. There's mostly just a lot of panic and confusion, but you can tell what's about to happen.
he's going to let it on sight. Blah, blah. He's going to light it on fire, Victoria. He's going to light it on fire.
Not if I can help it. I'm going to attempt another ritual. I think that the rites of salt and smoke will allow me to trap a person or creature. Could I perhaps do that just now so the flame cannot interact with the tree?
Yeah, I think that'll work. It's going to be a fast and dirty ritual. What does it look like?
It's still the bandages, and I'm still clutching in my hand. My own hand is still bloody, and I just squeeze, and we see more blood coming out between my knuckles to see if I can summon these dark spirits to put him in his place.
Yeah, go
Freeze
ahead
him
and
like
roll
one of his
with
sculptures.
Yeah, this is good. I think because you're relying on that bandage so much, I want this at disadvantage.
Understood. I need another die. I'm weak. I'm in pain. I just did this.
You just did the ritual,
Plenty
right?
of-
Yeah.
I just did this. Yeah, that's a 5 with sensitivity.
The sculptor, looking directly at you both, calls out. His voice cuts across the chatter across the crowd and says, "Merry Christmas to one and all." And he thrusts the flame into the tree and it ignites. It just goes up. Whoosh. The dancer screams as he burns alive. Screams break out across the crowd, and it's just fucking pandemonium. Unless you want to mark a Janus mask, Victoria.
Yes, please.
You can do a mask of the past, future, or I suppose you could take the group mask too, if you wanted. The mask of perfection.
I think I'm actually going to do Mask of the Future and take the condition Most Beloved.
Oh, very good. I like that a lot. So you have to choose a complication, or you have to your effect works, but you have to choose a complication on the ritual. You have a list there.
I'll take a condition.
In that case, piggybacking with Most Beloved, I'm going to give you marked by the sculptor as well, in addition to Most Beloved. So you are jacked up with conditions right now. You've got them all.
Understood.
And instead, be thinking about what your ritual looks like, how you save the dancer. I'm going to cut back over to Dominic and Jakob. So Jakob, before you leave the studio, you said you had something you wanted to do.
Oh, a little exit visual. Thinking about my Martian tell, that as Dominic and I leave, I'm assuming the dancers resume the footfalls and rehearsing, and I'll pause for a second, look down at my own foot, the leather shoe, kind of lifts it off the floor, put it back down, and then can see the leather strain and flex, similar to the way my fingers have separated in the past, and then kind of shake it off and walk out.
Jakob, are you going to that flat that you were told about by Christian?
My thought was to step out in the hall with Mr. Constantine and talk about that.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. Let's have that scene.
All right. Mr. Constantine, I don't know a conversation you had with Miss Gagnon, but the dancer Christian I was speaking with, he said that another dancer has failed to report for rehearsals today, Billy, and it's unlike him. I think we might have another victim, possibly. I have directions to the flat. Should we go investigate?
It's a place to start. Good job, rookie.
Also, my daily, what's it called? Daily move, daily dawn question. My dawn question, one of the ones I've got here is to visibly defer to the wishes of another hunter despite misgivings. So if you have another idea, go for it, and we can play that out too, but I'm fine either way.
That's a good start, Rook, but if they were snatched from here. We should try and find the last time he was seen at the hall.
Sorry, by hall, you mean the dance hall?
Yeah,
Okay.
Sorry, the opera house.
Well, or the studio or the opera house. There's just two different places.
I'm thinking the opera house as a whole,
Okay.
not necessarily the studio, but someone would have seen him
Yeah.
here. Let's ask around.
Oh, you don't think there's an urgency for finding fingerprints, evidence of how this sculptor has been finding their victims at the flat proper?
Let's face it, if the sculptor has him, he's already dead.
Is London always this lethal?
Aren't you glad you came?
Kind of look around a little, thinking deeply on that question with no answer at the moment.
Indeed. Victoria, please describe the ritual and how you save the dancer.
Having done this once before minutes ago, Victoria again tries to draw the spirits forward, but they are enraged at both being put off and not being able to get the rabbi earlier the previous evening, and being manipulated in such a way that the smoke this time comes from below my skirts, but a column of it encases me, much like the flames of the tree would have burst, but instead the smoke consumes me and I cough and stumble to the ground, but he is frozen. And I limpingly walk towards him, and everyone in the crowd sees me take the fire away from the sculptor.
The sculptor, who's showing no urgency to run away, he seems more entranced by what you're doing. And he just says to you, just to you, I remember the first time I saw the ballet. It was magic. To see the human form frozen in air sparked a warmth in me the frigid rains of London never could extinguish. I snuck in often, posing as a lady's child, an usher, a part of the cast. And when I was finally caught, they offered me an audition. They found me to be very adaptable. With a bit of training, I could be the best. So many dreams have melted away with time, like snow in the spring. I shall see you both soon again. And at this point, the crowd kind of surges to get the boy down. Constables show up. He just disappears in the crowd.
I think Victoria is exhausted and unable to do anything but stand and stare and watch as he melts away.
Let's just have the scene with you and Lady Florence as the boy is being dragged down from the tree.
I do not feel well at all. I kind of grab onto Lady Florence's arm and just holding myself upright.
That is certainly more of that than I've seen you do in one afternoon.
I had a very long night. I don't do this very often. They take so much from me. But I couldn't let him light fire to that poor boy.
In what he said to you, is there any reason at all that he might mark you as a target for these acts?
Oh, he will see both of us very soon, is what he said to me. I was honestly, I'm too drained for witty rejoinders at the moment. I couldn't keep him here.
Perhaps we'll have to lure him in.
Not now, Lady Florence, not now. I would very much like it. Look, there are some roasted nuts over there. Can we sit a spell while I catch my breath?
Yes, I'll go get you the chestnuts. You just take a seat on this bench. Do not move. Keep an eye out. If you see that grinning face, run immediately to me.
They have the boy down now. He's very young, probably 12, maybe. And he's very much in shock but they've gotten a blanket around him, or they've got a blanket around him, and they're getting something hot inside of him, and the situation is calming down a little bit. The tree is being cut down because it's soaked in kerosene and a danger. So they're taking the tree down. Lady Florence, what are you doing here as Victoria catches her breath?
I mean, I'll quickly grab the chestnuts for her. But then I think I'm going to like wander back over and perhaps talk to the boy. Is there anyone with the boy, or is he here alone? Like, yeah, like I'm just gonna go into like investigator mode here. Yeah, or attempt to.
Yeah, the boy is a young dancer. His name is Sasha Delov, not Billy, incidentally. He has, you can pick up the remnants of a Russian accent, actually.
Mm.
And he is calming down. He was actually wearing a performance costume, kind of a white, like kind of white tights and like a little vest, and you can walk up to him. The people who are there mostly just kind of comfort him and
Mhm,
figure
mhm,
out
mhm.
where he belongs, what to do with him. What do you say?
Young lad, I assume that you are a dancer. Um, can you tell me what company you're with?
He says, yes, I'm I'm I am with Royal Ballet.
Mm.
I uh this is all my fault.
In what way is it your fault? I can't believe it would be the fault of someone as young and innocent as you.
No, I am not so innocent. I I was happy. I was secretly happy when we heard that Basil had been killed, because I thought I would be able to take his place as lead mouse. And and, and now I'm being punished for those terrible thoughts. I'm being punished by God.
Oh no, no. My boy, everyone covets to be the lead mouse in the Nutcracker. Surely we would all be punished right here on the spot if that was simply the problem.
And he says, I should probably be going now. I don't and he kind of gets up, and he just sort of looks around and says, perhaps someone could escort me back to my flat.
Yes, why don't you come back with us to Hargrave House? It will be safer there. We have connections with the Royal Ballet. We can certainly let them know where you are, and that we will keep you safe from um, any further punishment from this strange man.
The constables who are there are kind of busy with the tree and dealing with the crowd, so they're happy to thrust you into this kid into your hands. Also because you are recognized as you're a member of the of the gentry, right? And so I think
Yeah, I
that
was going to say if there's any question, I
trustworthiness.
would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, you and the young dancer Sasha and Ms. Balakwa can all be together, and we'll cut back over to Jakob and Dominic. So, Mr. Constantine, what are you going to do once you leave the dance studio?
I was thinking maybe not leaving the dance studio.
Oh, okay. Doing what instead?
There has to be like changing rooms or equipment
Oh yeah.
rooms.
Mhm. Yeah, there's probably like a changing, like the equivalent of the Victorian equivalent of a locker room.
Yeah.
Right. Sure, there's something like that. So what do you do then?
Think I'll kind of, if Jakob isn't in a hurry to leave, I'll say, come on, you go where they don't want you to go.
I will tail along with you, but I'm going to, for a moment at least, naively babble about my idea of like, don't you think that if Billy didn't show up for rehearsals, there's a possibility that the killer is with him right now and he's still alive and we could save him? And you're a man of action, clearly. We should do something, shouldn't we? The dashing hero type.
Dominic will kind of look over his shoulder at Jakob and say, you have a very strange impression of what we do here at Hargrave House. We stop monsters.
Right, but isn't the sculptor a monster of sorts?
Oh, undoubtedly. Just, if we happen to save some lives in the doing, all the better, but not the priority. You get it?
Ooh, that gives me pause for thought. I just stop talking and kind of like follow along, like barely aware that I'm walking down the hallway with you at the moment.
If we find this Billy kid and we manage to get him before he gets the snip, that's great.
So then
Try and find somewhere that Ms. Gagnon wouldn't want us investigating.
I think if you want to go to like where the dancers sort of like get cleaned up and change and things, you can certainly do that. That's probably like the only other space in the studio, to be fair. It'll be
Sounds
nothing
good.
just to wander back there. And then once you do, then what?
Are there dancers?
Not currently, no. They're all in the actual practice space.
Are there lockers that once belonged to Basil, or was it Basil, Massimo, or Inez?
You can
Or
certainly
Billy?
start going through them. Yeah, I don't think any of them are labeled or anything, but
Start rifling through the lockers.
mhm.
You take that side. I'll take this one.
Good. Since it was your idea, Jakob, you can roll the information move with. I'm going to say composure.
Was-
You're not supposed to be back here, so
I don't think it was my idea at all. I think it was
That was
Dominic's
Dom.
idea.
I mean to go through the lockers specifically.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, which you said with composure?
That's with composure. Yeah.
Composure. Oh, I would definitely Dominic should make this roll, not me. That was a 5.
5. You're back there. Dominic, you hear the chunk chunk of a door being closed and indeed locked. This space is essentially like a kind of large rectangular room that is bisected by a bank of lockers. And I think right now you're both on either side of this bisection. There's just a little bit of light coming in from windows set high on one wall. So it's actually quite dim. Jakob, you hear Dominic. Dominic, you hear Jakob. And then you both hear in the darkness. Dominic, what do you do?
Going to pull out my blades and start walking towards it.
Jakob, what do you do?
there a human-sized locker I can hide inside of?
Sure. Kind of a storage closet.
By the way, I'm also partially like playing into the Superman thing of like stepping into a phone booth.
You can certainly hide. That's what you want to do.
I'm gonna try to hide.
Yeah. Dominic. The person in the locker room is someone you recognize. Someone from the past. Pause there for a moment. Meanwhile, Ms. Balakwa, Lady Florence, and Sasha, are you all heading straight back to Hargrave House?
I was trying to set up a vulnerable move with the chestnuts and having a brief seat. So perhaps on
You can do
the
that,
slow
yeah.
stroll on the way
Yeah.
home, we could do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. What vice is in play?
Well, I thought that I could use the sex with dark entities to like solo play kind of bit, like they're licking and caressing me under my skirts in a way that might not be
The others aren't
immediately.
aware of. Yeah.
Yes, kind of that dark ritual masturbation.
Sasha will say to you quietly, Lady Florence, I hope I'm not overstepping my boundaries, but your friend is very strange.
Yes, at times she is. Don't mind it too much.
Well, let's just have the scene then.
Lady Florence, I'm quite overcome. Oh, the first ritual left me with these pains in my leg that I suppose the walk is helping a little bit, but I just don't feel quite myself.
Do you need to sit down, Miss Balakwa?
I I mean, eventually, yes, that would be just a small break so I could rub my calves would be helpful, I think. I just need to stretch a little bit.
Do you think that Lady Florence would like catch on? Like, is this something that you've done in the past that I mean she's the explorer, so she's aware of these things, but I don't know. Like
I think in this instance, you cannot tell if it is pain and overexertion
mhm.
or pleasure. I think that the reactions are very similar.
So maybe I would ask in like a coy way and just say, is the pain so much that you need pleasure out of it, Victoria?
And a very long day.
And I think I'm like looking around the street, like if there's an inn or opium den or some type of place where there would be a nice couch for Victoria to sprawl out and relax for a little bit.
You are overestimating her needs. I think in this case, we could easily find a bench at a park and the young boy could rub my feet for a moment and I'd be fine.
You have to realize that I'm of an upper class, and a bench would never be enough. And surely a couch is not going to put us
The
out.
dancer is incredibly confused about what's going on.
Well, I hadn't expected young company in our walk back to Hargrave House. So in this case, yes, why don't we head back to Hargrave House then and just relax.
Victoria, it's really no bother. We can find a roof over your head.
Fine, Lady Florence. The nicer things are always
I think
lovely.
in the absence of any place where you can get some private space we're just gonna go into a house and I'm just gonna
You're gonna
rent
commandeer
a
someone's
room from
home.
yes, rent a room from them for a few hours while me and Sasha just enjoy some mulled wine with the family. And Victoria goes about her business.
Again, cool, but it's like a 5-minute situation. It was something that I didn't even think that you were going to catch on to, and now it's awkward and
Victoria, it's really no bother.
Yes, well, I'll be back for cocoa in a moment.
Enjoy yourself. Just relax.
I guess the vulnerable move was triggered here. Um, Did either of you clear a condition in this scene?
I was doing my best to clear the pain from my legs throughout the walking and the rubbing.
I think you can clear it just by virtue of time and distance. I think will probably be sufficient.
With the blood pumping.
And apparently warm accommodation in someone's home. So, they're all, everyone's very confused. No, I think it probably wouldn't be like completely out of order for like, you know, Lady Florence. You probably know lots of people, right? Especially in neighborhoods like this, right? To dive into someone's house and rest for a bit. Lady Florence, you're entitled to clear a condition too if you think you did. I don't know if that marked by the sculptor is going to get cleared from
No, I
this
wasn't really
scene.
seeing a route to that. Yeah.
No. But you do get to you get the bonus, Victoria. You can either stumble on a clue right now, maybe something to do with Sasha, possibly, or you can invite Lady Florence to ask you a question about the past.
Given how awkward Lady Florence just made this entire scenario, Victoria's not feeling very sherry. So let's just stumble upon a clue in a parlor somewhere.
You get to define the clue. So think on what it is,
Understood.
and it can be for either mystery.
Mhm.
Incidentally, it doesn't even have to be the one, the Nutcracker one necessarily. And we'll just wrap up this scene in the locker room, and then we'll call it a day, Faze. Mr. Constantine. It's the middle of the day, and pressed up into a dark, shadowy corner of the locker room is a vampire that you know from the past. They're doing their best to stay out of the sunlight. The vampire is very tall and good-looking, with a head full of dark, long hair. His name is Julius. How do you know him, this vampire? And why didn't you kill him, since you're a monster hunter?
Julius was for many years also a monster hunter. The fact that he was a vampire was one of those open secrets that the Constantines knew, but he'd never really been trouble. He ate the right people. And I think that in a couple of years before joining Hargrave House, they were maybe monster hunting compatriots who were very close.
I think he hasn't been in London for a number of years, but he's here now. And he doesn't look well. He says, I wasn't going to come out in the day. It's difficult for us to travel in the day, as you know. But I sensed you, Dominic. I sensed you. And I took a chance. I don't know what you're doing here. Intending to take up dance?
I've always been a little light on my feet.
Oh, you of the terrific wit. Dominic, I need your blood.
He's going to look over his shoulder at where Jakob was and kind of slip his blades back into the scabbards. Here.
Well, yes.
Dominic will kind of hesitate for a minute and then be quick about it. Not too much.
He gets kind of like really close to you within a couple of inches, and he says, where should I bite you?
Under the collar. I have a date tonight.
A date. And he sticks his teeth in and he drinks quietly but greedily. Not so much
too
that he wouldn't be stupid enough to do that to you.
I have one eye pressed up onto a crack in the door.
I know. Yeah. I think you just hear it, Jakob. You hear. And then he says quietly, so only you can hear, Dominic, who is the one you have with you?
Doesn't matter.
He doesn't smell like a person.
Now that's interesting.
Interesting indeed.
I live at Hargrave House now, Belgravia.
Oh. I know it. Perhaps you could, well, if I were to turn up, perhaps you could invite me in.
It could be arranged.
Splendid. One more sip. And he goes in. And he kind of stands up. And he already looks better. Fuller, more vibrant. He says, oh, good.
We'll catch up later.
Yes, we ought. And he's kind of goes back out to the hall. And he says, I'm nearby, but perhaps I'll come find you.
Just be careful. There's a monster out there.
I'm more worried about that great glowing celestial monster in the sky right now. But I know the shadowy ways.
Good.
And he slips out. Jakob, what are you thinking right now?
I've been holding my breath for so long. If and when I can sense that Julius has exited the room, I'll do a faint tapping on the inside of the door that I'm in and wait for Dominic to open it. And then I'll say, well, in London is very different than Wales, I think.
You're not wrong. You won't speak of that to anyone. Are we clear?
Yes, indeed, Mr. Constantine. I will. Nothing. Mom's the word.
Let's go. No monsters here.
Jakob, take the condition, in quotes, London is very different from Wales.
Right.
And Dominic, you can mark an O on your hunt. And I think that will wrap our day phase. Let's go to dusk. Okay. Unless the explorer is calling upon the Royal Explorers Club, there's no moves that need to be resolved right now. And so let's talk about Hargrave House.
So I was thinking about it.
Oh, what do you think?
But I think part of this ties into, do we want to attempt an answer on the mystery of the sculptor? Because we have a lot of clues,
do.
and
Possibly one more if Victoria stumbles on one. So
yeah. And so what I was thinking about doing was, I've got the connection with the person where we can throw a party and invite special guests. And I think we've
yeah.
identified between the two of us, as well as Sasha, as well as all of the folks that the other two have met, I think that we can create a really nice honeypot for the sculptor. So we could
I like
throw a party as a trap, or we could throw a party as a celebration of some winter tradition. So we've got either avenue here. Yeah.
I think that's great. I mean, do we want to go ahead and try to answer the question of what winter tradition does the sculptor still enjoy?
Sure.
Yeah, I like it a lot. The only thing that I'm slightly lamenting is if we do the complexity 8, don't we unlock a special move, if I remember right?
You do. It's a special move where you become a serial killer.
Oh, that's a super special move.
Yeah.
We don't need that one.
you all like start helping the sculptor with his like work. That's like that's what happens.
Okay,
That's
let's
an
throw a party
interesting life
instead.
choice for Jakob, though.
Right, yeah.
Right, exactly. This does not sound like a thing that Jakob is going to enjoy. So let's throw a party.
If you can do it,
We could also throw a party and then empathize with him at the party.
sure, yeah,
and
you can
burn
absolutely
all
do
of these
that,
people
yeah.
that we have brought into statues. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so I mean, why don't we take a 5-minute break so you all can think about theories, and also maybe Victoria, the clue you stumble on can maybe play into the theory if you want, and then we'll come back and we'll do that. Okay, let's take 5. Okay, so you all had expressed an interest in trying to answer one of these questions about the sculptor. Who has a theory?
I would like to add a clue to this mystery
Okay, what is
before
the
we
clue?
go.
Sure.
The Christmas tree in the square before he lit it was actually surrounded by a ring of Yule logs.
Oh, okay, interesting. All right, great. Okay, then. So then,
Remind me what a Yule log is. Is it you actually burn it, or is it like a confectionery?
I'm talking about the burning ones.
Okay.
I'm leaning into the idea that the sculptor still enjoys the pagan solstice as
Oh.
opposed to the actual Christmas season itself.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, that's intriguing. Is that the angle you want to go with on a theory? Yeah. Let's work through the clues then, if nobody has any objections to this as an initial thought here. So yeah, we've got the one clue, which is certainly counted for. Whoever's in that cell needs to click off of it or it won't be visible. So then the other clues, just to review, we have the castrato who was singing Verdi's Cortegiani vi Razzadanata from Rigoletto. We have the white Arctic fox. We have the sort of like social club, but where the handsome adult dancers gather to earn some extra cash. We have the discarded bandages. We have the 2 sets of footprints, the barefoot and the booted. We have the fact that the victims were all like kind of marked for greatness within the company. And then we have these strange late hour rehearsals. This is a tough set of clues for this theory. So I'm curious to see what we come up with here.
So one of the things I was thinking is, and Lady Florence might know this, is that apparently among the First Nations of Canada, there's a story, the white Arctic fox essentially represents a mythical figure, that a folkloric figure that would bring food to the people in barren times. So one of the things that I was like angling toward here was that maybe he sort of like recognizes that the dancers are like worked to the bone and almost starved. And so it's kind of like before he does this, he is trying to release that burden of like being like worked and chiseled down in a way and preserve them at a healthy state for all time is kind of the connection of it. And so like that celebration is just kind of like that generosity and giving and nourishing someone. So that's kind of, I was thinking like the discarded bandages of like releasing the pain of being overworked, the rehearsals at a very late hour. He knows that they're like kept up and they're tired. And even the sets of footprints. So maybe he like gives his boots to them, like he comes out barefoot and gives his boots to them. So he's like very like giving and
Oh, so this is
generous
like a
and-
fundamentally, like in his twisted worldview, this is like a nurturing thing he's doing.
Yes.
A nourishing
yes.
and nurturing thing. Oh, that's an intriguing idea. It certainly turns on its head what I was thinking about the sculptor. This is an interesting angle. If we're sort of like, if he's interpreting like the white fox to be some sort of like mythological symbol of like nourishment and this does speak to like sort of pagan practice, I guess. I mean, we don't have to take that First Nations story necessarily. I don't know why he would know that, but we could just have our own interpretation of sort of solstice myth here. And so that's intriguing. The bandages indicate a certain level of awareness of how they suffer, as well as the barefoot, and like he gives them their boots. That's intriguing. The rehearsals at a very late hour are another, like just the acknowledgement of like he like understands what they're going through,
As well as the club earning extra cash. Like they should not have to do that.
right? So this is almost like him rescuing the dancers in some way. That's an intriguing idea.
Yeah.
Which
and
is
I think,
probably
like,
also why he's choosing those victims that were marked for greatness, that he wants to rescue the ones that are being pushed the hardest to succeed.
Well, I
Okay.
had a slight twist on that. Like he didn't rescue them; he murdered them.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
is it that they turned down his offers of assistance?
Well,
That's why they
so
got murdered.
here's a weird little thing, is that Victorian taxidermists, this was a time when like we humans were going out and just like slaughtering animals, right? And the goal of taxidermy was to preserve those animals because they knew that they were going to get wiped out. So in a way, he is trying to like preserve their
Oh,
greatness.
yeah.
Like he's sort of like nourishing them, making sure that they are in their best state and will be in their best state forever and ever.
It's really dark, but it's interesting. I like it. I wonder about the last presumed victim, like Sasha, because Sasha wasn't killed initially. He was
Mm.
tied to the tree, and it was almost like a message he was sending to Hargrave House. And so I'm curious about that move. Like, what does that connect to the solstice in some way? Is there like some kind of like, I mean, because the tree was surrounded by Yule logs, apparently. Was this like some sort of ritual thing for him? Like, what do we think about that?
Or it was Sasha was not headed for greatness. Sasha was just collateral damage, and he was trying to warn us more will suffer unnecessarily if we keep pushing.
Oh, that's intriguing.
Just like the woman that he
Mm.
snatched from the lake for just opportunistic reasons.
Sasha has a record of skipping rehearsals.
That's why he wasn't lead mouse. That's intriguing.
Maybe he thought we would realize that, like, if we just let him do his work, he would be able to preserve these things. But if we were going to interfere, he would destroy them, essentially. Like,
Right.
yeah, like in his twisted mind, what he's doing is good.
Yeah, I'm intrigued about the like, because if you're going for the second question of like what or what tradition does he still try to what winter tradition does the sculptor still enjoy? We're saying that this is not that the winter tradition is it's pagan practice. It has nothing to do with like Christmas or Christianity, that it's this different kind of thing.
Well, it is
Right.
about generosity and giving and like sacrificing of oneself for the good of another.
Yeah. Okay, so all right. What winter tradition does the sculptor still enjoy? You're saying that the winter tradition is the solstice, apparently, and the clues are. It seems like it mostly revolves around this like this little myth that we're coming up with about the fox that like would bring nourishment and sustenance to people in need. And so he views the dancers as people in need because of how they're treated. It's also interesting, he has like a personal connection to the company, right? Because that speech he gave to Ms. Balakwa, indicating that he used to be part of the company, right? And so I think he probably understands instinctively kind of what these young men are going through. And the posing them at the height of their power and their like physical, perfection, their beauty is an effort to sort of like preserve them at their greatest, which he views as an act of love. It's very
A
twisted.
great dancer will be remembered by the people who are into dance, but his works will be remembered for always.
Yeah, it's intriguing. Any thoughts on the Verdi piece?
I read the translation of it. I don't.
It's all about kidnapping. Like,
Oh.
so the man singing that particular aria, his like counterparts have kidnapped his daughter, and so I think either he just used to dance to this piece and therefore got the idea that he should be kidnapping, or it's a red herring in our particular theory.
It could just be, it's, I mean, it could be a red herring. Yeah, I don't know.
Or it could be the Nutcracker. That could have been him singing. We don't know. He could be a castrato.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was going from the context of that clue was when the dark entities were trying to snatch at Rebecca.
Right,
so
yeah.
It could just be
like the music. The implication was the music didn't really exist, that it was like
Mhm.
just something you heard right in that moment, right? Yeah, I don't know. I think the other clues are pretty well accounted for. If we kind of view this fundamentally as his view is that he's helping these young men, that he's trying to preserve these young men, that he's trying to, that he's trying to like save them. I think that's an intriguing idea. I think what we probably have to answer then is, what about the actual, like, okay, what winter tradition does he enjoy? You resolve the threat by celebrating with the sculptor. And so that, I guess the kind of like follow-up question is like, what are you going to do? Like, what is the event that you're going to put on to celebrate with him?
I have an idea for the bait. And this is me, like, I'm going to be like the super naive one. I've met this lovely dancer named Christian, and you all could convince me to invite Christian to the party and then let the sculptor know that Christian will be there. And I have no idea.
And the party could be framed as like feeding the dancers and giving them.
Oh, it's something for the dancers specifically.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
that's
just-
intriguing.
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
a soup line sort of way. We open our doors and feed all who arrive.
And Christian and Sasha are both your kind of your way into that, right? Because you now have this connection to two of the dancers. Like, so it's almost like a party being held for the dancers, which is interesting. I kind of like that. That's a pretty good angle. That would certainly get the sculptor's attention, right? Because the sculptor apparently views himself as their sort of like their helper, their nourisher, their,
And maybe it's an invitation to like bring things to for the dancers. So it's like a charity type of event.
a
where
charity
it's
thing.
like,
Yeah. There's
bring
a lot of sympathy in
food
the
and
city right
gifts
now.
and-
Yeah. There's a lot of sympathy for the company right now because of the murders. So that makes sense. Yeah, I like it. That would definitely get the sculptor's attention. And it allows you to resolve the threat by luring him into the hands of the police, according to the resolution, but you can interpret that loosely as you wish.
Into the hands of Miss Cagnon.
yeah, however you want to lure him into the hands of. Okay, interesting. I think this is a really interesting theory. I think it is going to be interesting to play out. Why don't we go ahead and roll? With the current clues, you have a +1 on the roll. So whoever wants to take it away, go ahead and do that.
Mike, you had the foundation. You should roll it.
Okay. Or maybe I shouldn't have. I rolled a 5.
A 5. The answer is incorrect. And according to the move, and I react.
Or do we check a whole bunch of masks?
Or we can get 4 Janus masks marked right now, and that will bump it up to 7 to 9.
I'll do it.
Really?
I've got nothing marked, so
We don't want to just take another, for lack of a better word, stab at this?
We could.
remind me if we take another stab, we just need to gather more clues and then evaluate all of them?
You can just try answer a question again next time and see how it goes. But for now, you have to deal with me in the night phase and my reaction.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, there is a reaction, and I think that's more of what we're avoiding than
you're avoiding what I'm going to do to you in the night phase.
All right, well, imagine the group is a democracy, and I'll wait to cast my vote last.
So let's have the votes. You do have the 1 mask of perfection that somebody can choose if they don't want to mark their sheet. So
maybe I would do that if everyone's all right with it.
I will check a mask.
Same.
I'm fine with that too.
The mask of perfection applies to everyone, even though Ms. Balakwa marks it. Everyone has to do it. It says each hunter will narrate the last time they danced, what was perfect in those moments. So be thinking about that in addition to whatever else you're marking. Your result now is a 7 to 9. It is correct. It will not be easy, but it will happen. It sounds like Lady Florence is going to call upon a member of the Royal Explorers Club, Sir Stuart Trebling Wells, to throw a party. Sir Stuart will throw an extravagant party at Hargrave House, according to your wishes. You get to name any side characters that you want to be in attendance, and Admiral Flagg will show up as well. So, what do you think, Lady Florence? Is there anybody in particular you want to show up, apart from the sculptor, of course?
Let's get, as many of the dancers that we know as
you can have all the dancers. Yeah. Do you want Ms. Gagnon there?
I'll pose that to Brian and Ben.
I was invited to that special rehearsal, but if all the dancers are at the party, that may be postponed.
Yeah.
So go for it.
Yeah, let's get the whole company here.
Very good.
A benefit
And so
for company.
That is the night phase basically sorted. Is everyone going to the party apart from Lady Florence? All right then.
Yes.
Very good. And now let's talk about Hargrave House itself. Well, I think we have to probably talk about the ballroom, since that's presumably where this party is going to happen. Hargrave House once hosted a ball for a group of visitors from the Fey realm. Even today, there are subtle reminders of that night in this room. What are they?
So when there's dust in the air and you can see that kind of like raking light and you can see all of the particles, there is an effect of that in different pockets of the ballroom that have tiny little twinkling sparkles.
When the light shines through the windows just right, you can hear orchestral music.
There are little cherubs carved into the woodwork that weren't there before, representing the children that the Fae had kidnapped.
That's nice. When moonlight shines through the windows, the marquetry, is that the right word? The parquet floor shows silver designs that run through it, which are not visible in daylight.
Nice. And if anybody wants to resolve their Janus Mass now, they can, or you can wait until the dawn.
I think I'm going to wait.
I think resolving the last time Dominic danced, I think it was a quiet night after a successful hunt, and on a rooftop, Julius and Dominic danced before the moon set.
I think I can wrap up both of mine in a single little narrative here. That seeing the ballet floor reminds me that like the only time I've danced has been in more of a rural church, and that I was aspiring to be a member of the clergy, and when my Martian tell was revealed and my parents took action was when I was like sort of practicing the idea of holding up a chalice with the candelabras there, sort of illuminating everything in this formal setting. But then my fingers split in twain, and they realized that a public career where my hands would be visible would be something that would reveal my identity. And they definitely encouraged me to change to a career of a solicitor where I could keep my hands below the desks.
Anybody else?
I think on Lady Florence's part, I'll tie it into what we just narrated. The last time she danced was at this Fae ball that was at Hargrave House. And I think like to tie it into what I added to the scene, like I think I'm dancing with like the Fae King. And we are discussing the manners of our two realms. And he like points out like, oh, do you see these new details that have been added to your ballroom? And he kind of points out all of the different like lighting effects and that type of thing. And then he points out the children and it says like, and we have brought and immemorialized some children from the area within. And I think she's so horrified that at that very second, like calls off the ball, chases everyone out, and kind of swears never to have a dance again, to never have a ball again because of the potential dangers of it. And maybe that's even a mystery to everyone who like comes into Hargrave House since, is just like, why does no one ever dance? Why aren't they allowed to dance within a ballroom? Yeah.
In
Nice.
that case, I'll just wrap everything up here. The last time Victoria danced was on her own. She was strolling home in the late evening. down the cobblestone walk and just slowly begins to dance and twirl to her own music in her head. And it was in that moment that the dark entities began to swirl and twist around her, and the perfection was really in just the harmony between the two of us, which doesn't happen very often.
Good. I love it. All right. Let's talk about the unseen. Tonight's unseen. What should it be? Let's do A Drink at the Four Magpies. This is on line 41, the far right. The Four Magpies is a pub popular with working class gay men run by the butch landlady Polly O'Donnell. While it seems like any other cramped, rowdy, spit and sawdust pub, it is an oasis of relative safety in a dangerous city. Polly does what she can to protect her boys. There are a few small rooms available upstairs, and some of the lads make a bit of extra coin entertaining wealthier guests. Everyone does paint the scene. And prompt 2 will be Ben. Prompt 3 will be Sarah. And prompt 4 will be Mike. Let's take a quick 5-minute break. We'll come back into the night phase. It's the night phase. Now, normally the night phase, as last time, is very punchy and quick, but I don't want to waste a party. And so we are going to have a long, drawn-out night phase that will go into next week. So we'll just kind of set things up today. But first, at the Four Magpies, everyone, describe a moment we see of men sharing a moment of intimacy that would be unwise to do elsewhere.
I think in the middle of all of the tables, a group of guests have pushed some of the tables aside and have begun slow dancing right in the middle of the bar as the rest of the patrons watch.
Two of the patrons who aren't watching are at the furnace on a sofa with a blanket over them, and they're like just reading a book. One of them is reading a book to the other one, who has his head on the book reader's shoulder, and they're just not paying attention to anything else that's going on.
One of the older patrons chatting up a younger man at the bar goes to tuck his hair behind his ear and whispers something.
Since legs seem to have been a theme in our day phase, that as the men sit alongside each other, sometimes, rather than sitting arm in arm, they're sitting one leg thrown over the leg of the gentleman to the next. And that you see that echoing a little bit in the dancing, something that in future years might be called the paso doble, where you kind of interlace your legs while dancing. Let me make a suggestion. Since we're not going to finish until later, we better write down our things for Echo in the Night. Oh, somebody just did perfectly. Thank you. I was like, I'm going to need a reminder of these.
That is all. It's all y'all's business. So do as you wish. This party is not taking place that night. This is several nights after the events of the day phase. You all have had a chance to make friends and connections within the company. There's the young dancer Sasha, there's Christian, there's whatever strange currently off-screen things are going on between Dominic and Lady Cagnon. And in any case, you've made some connections to the dancers, to the ballet, and Lady Florence has called upon her good friend from the Royal Explorers Club, who is Sir Stuart Trebling Wells. He is an eccentric, we'll say. He typically can be found wearing a fine brocade smoking jacket, and he has a cigarette holder ring, like a little ring with a cigarette that is mounted to it. And of everybody in the REC, he's probably the most sort of flamboyant and of the group. He's very precisely groomed. He's a former explorer, but now he spends most of his time chasing young men and throwing lavish parties. And, well, frankly, this is a thing he's happy to help out with, because, well, it's Hargrave House. It's Lady Florence. And indeed, I think we see Sir Stuart's team finishing up the finishing touches on the ballroom, and he's with you, Lady Florence, and he's decided to show up to the party he's actually just decided to wear like a very fine plum colored dressing gown. It's very, very eccentric to show up to your party you're throwing not dressed for it, right? He looks like he just rolled out of bed, right? But in a very rich, fussy, precise sort of way. And he says, "So, Lady Florence, a charity event for the Royal Ballet here at Hargrave House. I have to say, when you told me that you wanted to emphasize less Christian themes and more, how shall I put it, rustic pagan themes, I had my concerns, but then once I started taking a look at the house on the inside, and it's, well, how shall I say it? It's rather Gothic nature. The mind started to race. This does seem like a lot of trouble for a bunch of young dancers. I mean, I understand they've had their troubles recent weeks, but, well, it seems a little bit out of character for you, Lady Florence. What's this all about?"
Truly, Sir Stuart, it's about empathy and understanding, and making sure that the message that we're sending is sincere and honest. The clash, as you point out, the clash of Christian themes and our particular decor would give an air of inauthenticity to what we are trying to celebrate here. And even though we still capture the same spirit, I think we do in a way that is unified and will feel whole to those who bear witness to it.
Oh, Lady Florence, I don't have to tell you that your reputation down at the club is not exactly one of charity or sociability. You are, well, it's been said that you make faster friends with things found at the bottom of the sea than you do with people. I don't want to tell you that no one here is a cephalopod or any other creature of the deep.
Stuart, I have done so much for the people who live in the deep. You have no idea, and I know that you do not believe that they are down there, or were down there, or however you want to put it, but they were, and I gave everything to give civilization to them.
How is it going with the crown having that mountain range that no one can see because it's, well, thousands of leagues beneath the surface of the ocean, your name?
I'm furious at Stuart right now. And I think I
Oh, calm down, Lady Florence. I'm just pulling your tentacle. There's no need to get worked up. I'm just saying, you're a bit eccentric. And that's coming from me, a famously eccentric member of the club.
And has the crown named any mountain ranges at all after you? Let me ask that question. If they are, if this is such an insult that there is a great, the tallest mountain range in all of the world, in fact, is named after me, and yet no one can see it, does it matter compared to you who have nothing?
Well, I'm sure if I pull the right strings and play my cards right, I can have, I don't know, a bordello or an opium den or something named after me someday. I suppose that's more my speed. Yes, it's true, I didn't really discover anything of note, but that was never really my role in the club, was it? I mean, yes, I am technically an explorer, but the things I explore are, well, you know, so much more, how shall we say, they're a bit more localized.
And all of the rest of this discourse aside, Sir Stuart, I do appreciate and think you have truly outdone yourself in accomplishing the task and
I
using those
have,
particular
haven't
tactics.
I? I really have gone very, very far outside of my way to get this done. And here, let's paint the scene. The ballroom and indeed the main entryway of the house and things are very like lavishly decorated for this charity event. And yet it has the feeling of like a holiday celebration, but it's not particularly a Christmas celebration. It has other, it has more sort of pagan undertones. I am curious how the decor reflects that. It's sort of Christmas on the surface, but it's not really.
I think that there are bountiful branches of evergreen everywhere. The molding, the sconces, the everything, but it also is bound with twigs and twine and more natural, what you'd find on a forest floor more than what you would find on a holly branch. So it looks very fine up close, but quite basic underneath.
Indeed.
There's a mulled wine punch bowl sort of thing with little silver lined glasses, except that the glasses are all deer hooves with a silver rim. So you're literally drinking out of the hoof of some, forest beast.
No reindeer were harmed in the preparation of these drinks, Sir Stuart says as he wanders by that display.
I think there's a setup that from afar might look like a nativity scene, a very simple nativity scene, but if you get closer, it's all like taxidermied woodland animals, and it's mere coincidence.
You wouldn't believe how expensive plaster baby Jesuses are this time of year.
And I think that there's the tree is hanging from the ceiling, as would be custom in some places. And so it's like hanging down almost in the shape of a fox's tail, and has been bleached white with the tip of it has been painted black. So it looks like a foxtail like hanging from the center of the room.
It's avant-garde. Don't think about it too much. And people are starting to arrive at the party. The dancers are all there. And it's been arranged for them to put on a performance. So everyone's going to gather there, and people are bringing gifts, and people are like, it's all about the dancers, but they're also going to, they're going to sing for their supper a little bit and do a little performance. They're all happy to, because they might not get to do the Nutcracker this year. And so this is at least a place to show off, because ultimately they like to show off their talent and their skill. I am curious. Jakob, Christian's spirits are significantly better, and he seems much, much in a healthier frame of mind since your friendship with him over the last few days. How is that reflected in how he's appearing tonight?
Well, certainly a spring in the step, but he's put some attention into styling his hair and like a little oiled swoop that normally he seems to neglect.
Victoria, how have you managed to make friends with Sasha and put at ease his concerns about Hargrave House after your strange first encounter with him?
Well, I think I've been entertaining any number of the company with my fortune telling. That I whip out my tarot cards and tell them fantastic tales of loves that they will find, or fortune, or wealthy patrons in the future, and they're all dazzled with the mystique of it.
Dominic, how are things going with Ms. Gagnon or Madame Gagnon? Are you friendly? How's that been developing?
I think it's there's been a bit of an exchange of knowledge. Perhaps she is teaching him a bit of dance, and he is teaching her a bit of combat. A different
Very
kind of
interesting.
dance.
Very interesting indeed. Lady Florence, someone steps up between you and Stuart as people are kind of arriving and getting food and drinks and things and meeting the dancers, shaking their hands and things like that, giving them gifts. Someone walks up between the two of you and puts his arms around you both. Admiral Flagg says, "Well, an informal meeting of the Royal Explorers Club here at Hargrave House. Magnificent. Stuart, I thought you might stop by. The Chimera, it's right next door." And of course, Stuart makes his apologies, but he's been very, very busy with getting this party ready. And Admiral Flagg says to you, Lady Florence, "I couldn't help but overhear Stuart giving you a hard time about your discoveries beneath the waves. Lady Florence, I'm sure everyone understands that you are, well, that your genius and prowess will be well known in the fullness of time, if not today."
We all know, and you especially, Admiral Flagg, that if the Queen's empire extends only over the land that air touches, it will not be complete enough.
I've heard rumors that the Queen's empire might even extend into the sky, very, very high up in the sky. Isn't that a novel idea?
Very, very novel, Admiral Flagg.
Yes.
Stuart, what did you do with the Admiral's wreath? I don't see it anywhere. I think I asked you to hang that up.
He says, "Oh, I thought you wanted me to put that in the closet. Did I misunderstand? What?" "Oh, yes, the Admiral's wreath. Of course, Admiral Flagg. I didn't really think it fit the sort of Celtic decor we're going with here today." Admiral Flagg waves it off like it's nothing. And the party is in full swing. People are bringing gifts of food and clothing and things like that, like, warm scarves and all kinds of stuff for the dancers, right? The dancers are delighted. Like, they're all, I mean, most of them are young men. Some of them are actual children, and they all come from almost uniformly from really hard backgrounds. And so this is really something for them. Like, they're having all these like lovely gifts, lavished upon them by all these rich people in this very, very like grand space. And that part's all going well. It's all going very, very well. Eventually, things settle down, and the dancers are going to put on a performance. They are going to perform a piece from the Nutcracker, and they don't have all the props and things that they need, but there's musical accompaniment, and it'll get by just fine. And Dominic, you can't help but notice that Julius is at the front doors of Hargrave House. I think you have hired a person to manage the door, people coming in and out. And he says, I just seem to have misplaced my invite. Surely you can just let me in. And the guy at the door says, no, you have to have an invitation. Like there's the whole like back and forth. What do you do, Dominic?
I think Dominic will stand and kind of lean against the door and say, oh, yes, I would think you'd be able to come right in, couldn't you?
Yes.
And just kind of tease him a little.
Indeed, perhaps you yourself, Mr. Constantine, could invite me in.
I suppose I could, but one wonders what
I
would
pop
get out
up
of it.
suddenly and I say, oh, is this the friend?
Yes. Yes, we all met the other day. That's right. Jakob, right?
Don't remember mentioning my name.
Jakob, can I come in?
Auto character Ben, what do you think? I'm thinking I should lean into it.
Go for it.
All right. Yes, it's so great to make new friends in the city.
Splendid. Like in the moment you say yes,
any friend of Mr. Constantine's is a friend of mine.
the moment you say yes,
in.
he like pushes the doorman out of the way and like steps through the threshold. And he's like, good. He's not dressed for the occasion. He is wearing a kind of like very like open at the chest, like sort of puffy pirate shirt and tight leather pants. And is giving very like pirate couture here. His long dark hair kind of cascading down his back. And he says, come, Jakob. And he holds his arm out to you. Show me around.
I turn to Dominic and I go, but my finger kind of like wiggles a little bit, almost like it's about to split in two. Give my little arm to the Julius.
Dominic's smile will be quite brittle and just say, have a lovely evening.
Indeed, indeed. We're going to fast forward a little bit to the actual performance. It's all going very well. Everyone's very delighted. During one of the solos, the principal dancer, who now is Christian because he's the oldest, he's dancing in the middle, doing his, I don't know anything about ballet, but his ballet jumps and twirls and spins and things. And then in a moment of almost like magic, indeed it is magic, he begins to spin on point, and he actually lifts up into the air, spinning into the air. Sir Stuart looks at you, Lady Florence, to indicate confusion, like, I didn't do this. And even Julius looks over at you, Dominic, to confirm, this isn't me. And we'll end right there with Christian floating and spinning and everyone being like, ooh, ah, like they think it's just a trick, it's a bit of stagecraft. We're not going to have a dawn phase because we're not there yet. We're still in the night phase, but we can do a quick, we're a little bit past time, but we can do a few minutes of stars and wishes before we head into next week's session, which I think will be taken up principally by the rest of this night phase. So yeah, stars and wishes, whoever wants to take it away, go for it.
I really enjoyed just the little bits we're seeing of all of the characters. Really, like we're still really early in this, and we're getting lots of cool little backstory hints. And I also love the way that Victoria's dark spirits manifest. Just just on a visual level, the dark smoke is just really cool and evocative. Lady Florence and her party arranger, whose name just fled my brain.
Sir Stuart.
Thank you, Sir Stuart. I kept waiting for them to go, oh, lovely to see you, dear, and kiss, kiss, and then go off right in the middle of their heated exchange. But maybe next time. And yeah, this was good fun. Jakob is making friends, which is always nice to see. And let's see how that goes. That'll be good.
Nice. I absolutely loved the repartee between Lady Florence and Sir Stuart with the, like, you know, indignant civilization and what do you know. That was fantastic. And Ben already said the smoke thing, but I like the inversion of the burning tree to a smoke-filled skirt. Was a really neat image. So what else? Oh, Ben, you had said to Julius, be careful, there's a monster out there. That was fantastic, as well as Jason's reply about the celestial monster above. And yeah, just lots of good flares of characterization. A small wish, and it might be impossible given the number of games that you coordinate, Jason, but I would love the time, if ever possible, to front load 30 minutes of music. Like, I will do homework for this. So if you're like, I know you're going to need to know about Chopin's
I actually would have had thought about it.
Let me know.
Like, I should have warned them about this particular, like, I should have just given you all the musical references so you could all go look them up. But there was a fun, and you just sort of like also coming up with something on the fly too that kind of, I don't know, feels like a little more raw and real in role playing to me. But yeah, so
I mean, I had the opera playing in the bathroom, learning to hum it like half an hour before.
yeah, we did get that little opera. That was a great touch. That was a star of mine, actually. Yeah, I appreciated that callback a lot. It's really good. Go ahead.
I have lots of stars. Dominic, just the call me Dom, awesome. Also, is it Julius or Julianne?
It's Julius.
Yeah. He always ate the right people. Is very like monster hunter chic of like, well, I don't have to kill him yet. Also, excellent detail. Lady Florence making my dark spirit situation as awkward as possible was both a star, but also as a player, I was like, wait, no, are we okay? We're doing it. I like all of Jakob's just taking a step back in a way where I had to be very ritual heavy and forward in getting some things done. You being able to take a step back and then just learning by lurking. I feel like you're really leaning in hard to that, Brian, and I like it a lot. And then still just a star for this like whole threat. Like I'm really thinking that the creepy Christmas vibes is where I want to be from here until December 31st. Wishes. I just don't know. There's so much. I mean, I wish that the party is going to be just as disturbing as I think it could be. I feel like if we lean in really with the holiday spirit being just the worst thing possible, it's going to be a lot of fun to play out. So yeah,
star for me. I really I'm trying to strike like a really particular tone in the way I present characters and in the way I present situations. I'm trying to like capture this like idea of like a holiday feel, but I'm also trying to like capture this little bit more of like a real like kind of character focus, like back and forth, you know, I'm really happy that everyone's kind of like leaning into that and playing into that, right? There's a version of this. You were all very, very efficient investigating this particular threat, but also in the middle of that, though, you still managed to like show a lot of your character and what your character's deal is and how they react to the world. The little like banter between Gagnon and Dominic was excellent, as was Sir Stuart and Lady Florence. I loved that. I thought the vulnerable scene was really good. It was so awkward and weird, but it was really, really good. And I'm really loving like Jakob's role in this. Like, there's something interesting about a character who's so naive and like and is not guarded and mysterious in the same way that the other characters are. And it's fun to see how everyone reacts to that, and indeed how the side characters react to that as well. I'm having a lot of fun. Julius is one of my favorite side characters. I like to tweak him and change him a little bit every time I bring him out. And so it's kind of fun. This incarnation is fun. I love playing the Sculptor. I love playing Admiral Flag. I mean, I'm getting to like hit a lot of my favorite characters to play in this. And so it's working really well for me. I'm very happy with it. Yeah, my wish. I actually don't know what's going on with Christian floating in the middle of the dance floor. Is just an idea that came to me. So we'll see what it means. I'm curious to see what it means, if it means anything. Maybe it was a bit of stagecraft. Maybe there is magic. Maybe there's another vampire. Maybe it's the Limehouse Lurker because you all ignored him this session. So it could be any of those things. So I'll be curious to see how that shakes out. But yeah. Is that everyone or?
I have mine. I guess like just to echo what everyone is saying, like I think this game is like it's a snowball kind of game where like it starts small. It always feels, I mean, I've played it twice, but it feels like that first session, there's just, you have to fill in a lot, right? Like you don't have any like background, like you don't have anything that you are relying on. So it really depends on the players like inserting a lot of like little like keys to the characters as they're sort of figuring out the characters. And I think, yeah, just echoing what everyone else has said, I think that it felt like everyone's starting to add these like meteor bits, and then there's a lot of callbacks, right? Like across what everyone is doing, calling back and like just building and building and building on what we're building over the course of the sessions. So I think it's a really nice execution of the game. And yeah, like I'm starting to feel more comfortable. My character, it seems like everyone else is doing so as well. And then Jason, yeah, like you can tell that like you really like playing these characters. The Sculptor himself is super creepy. I don't like him. In that I do like him. But yeah. And then I think obviously like wish is just to see that develop. I think like as that gets richer and bigger. I also, even though we're sort of like wrapping up the this particular the Nutcracker mystery in theory, I want to see more of the creepy Christmas stuff. I'm not done with that, even though I wanted to solve this particular mystery. So my wish is that we can lean into that more.
Fabulous. Any other stars or wishes?
Well, there was a funny wish that Brian had posted in the chat earlier. The NPC, the woman who was stabbed through the head with an ice pick.
Yeah.
He mentioned in the chat that this NPC could become a hanger-on wannabe vessel. Just like knock me.
That's where all the most beloved is coming from. It's all her.
Yeah.
All her.
The spirits have talked to me again. Did they say the same to you?
Yeah. No, and to enhance Mike's star and or wish, the self-referential nature of this game, both I as a player and as a character, kind of like we lean into it with the unseen, but it does seem to create this cyclical effect throughout all of the gameplay. And so by creating the unseen, we kind of echo ourselves in trying to build those characters, which I think is a really fun kind of expanded part of the way we play this game. And it's very cool.
Yeah, that's exactly how it should go. And like, I will say that like something I would encourage you all to do at this point in the game is, before we meet next time, is to really read through your Mask of the Past in particular. And now that you have like a little bit more like foundation in the character in terms of like what they're like, and some story threads I've thrown out there, maybe taking a look at your Mask of the Past now and kind of thinking like what it means, like what it could mean, and how you want to like lean into that. I think that'd be great fun. In my other group, in my Shadow Society group, a couple of the players, but especially Mads, she like preps her Mask of the Past, right? Like she knows what's coming up next, and she's got it like ready, like she's thought about it, and like to where she's like monologuing, right? And like it's really great. Like I'm not saying you have to do all that, but like it's, whenever she does it, like it's very special. Like it feels like it's almost like radio play. Like she's here to like perform, this moment for you. And I appreciate that, because it's like, that was like why I wrote this mechanic in the game. It's like, it's a chance for you as a player to, it is as bright a line as you're going to get, an opportunity to sit in your character and tell us about them, right? And so it's like a just like seizing the opportunity, I think, is always really nice. And so I would encourage you all to think about your Mask of the Past as we not just for next week, but just as we proceed and play. And like, just as I'm always kind of constantly revising the mastermind's plan as we play, I think you all should be constantly revising like what your Mask of the Past means, right? Based off how things are going in the story. So, and I think that just speaks to what you and Mike were talking about, Sarah, like this idea of it's always building, right? It's always building and layering on top of itself. And so it's something you can kind of actively do as well. All right, well, if there's nothing else, that was a great session. I think next week we'll probably just finish the night phase and then do the dawn phase, and that'll be for all of next week. So it might be a little shorter, but I really want to luxuriate in this party. I love party scenes. You should take time. I don't think you should hurry those. So I will see you all next week. Let's wave goodbye.